Hi, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. Welcome back to night number 4 of the chapter book reading just before bed program, the Book of a Feather. Let's get started. Chapter 19, Reenie. You're doing it again, Jackson taps my laptop's keyboards. The librarian has given us our library period to work on our Vermont projects. Instead of typing up my brief history of falconry, I'm doodling owls. But how can I not? Rufus flew to me from all the way across the yard on the creance. Aunt Bee can't believe how far he's come, how much he trusts me. But Rufus and I have come to an understanding. We need each other. Watching him lift off the perch, spread his wings wide, and glide silently, yellow eyes glued on mine, then flapping once, twice, and swooping up onto my fist. It's like seeing a part of me come back to myself. In class, Mr. Brown calls for people's attention. You should have all completed your research at this point and be well on your way to putting that research into your essays as we discussed earlier this week. I want everyone to get into their groups and share what they've written so far. Start talking about transforming your individual pieces into your group presentation. The room rumbles with the thunderous sounds of desks being dragged into new formations. Jamie, Jackson, and I arrange ourselves in a tight knot. I've already finished my essay on the negative impacts of hunting, Jamie says, but I also found all this stuff on the economic benefits to rural communities. I didn't know that if that was okay. I didn't want to step on your toes, Jax. She slides a folder of paper towards Jackson. Step all over them, he says. A cold sweat prickles out beneath my shirt. She already has a folder of research, of extra research. I was thinking for the presentation that maybe I could do some drawings, Jackson says, pulling out a sketchbook. He's already done 3 amazing sketches of a deer, men up on a deer blind, and a compound bow. Have you finished your essay, Jamie asked, smiling blissfully, unaware that I'm definitely the weakest link in our chain. I have not. I still have to do the interview part of the assignment to transition from the history of falconry to what it is today. It'll be done in time, Jamie's face falters. But you've started, right? Definitely, I lie. Jackson's eyebrows launch into the fringe of his hair. I'm sorry, Rufus has just been keeping me so busy. I thought he was better. You haven't released him? Jackson asked. He's getting better, I say. He's not 100%. The presentation is in a week, Jamie says, eyes wide. It'll be done, I promise. Geez, they're touchy about this project. We spent the rest of the period working in silence on our individual essays, some of us starting from a blank page. That means she hasn't done anything. When Aunt Bee gets home, I'm ready with my questions. Some of them we just skim over. How'd you get your falconry? What stuff do you need to practice falconry today? As we've already covered that ground. Is falconry in Vermont different than other places in America? Aunt Bee nods. I've met falconers from other places, and they all offer me condolences. Vermont's not a great place for falconry. Too many people, not enough open land. I put my pen down. Jackson said the same thing about deer hunting. His dad's always griping about there being too little ground to hunt. It's the fight between nature and civilization that humans have been fighting on this land for centuries. 140 years ago, parts of Vermont were 80% deforested. That means that they cut down the timber. It was all cut for timber and sheep meadow. Now we have residential developments and strip malls fighting with farmers and conservationists for land. Sometimes the balance shifts towards one group, then towards another. Unfortunately, falconers are not a loud voice in that fight. I begin doodling. I wish everyone would just leave things the way they are. Stop making parking lots and garbage piles and just let the animals and trees live. Aunt Bee smiles, huffs a little laugh. It can't be all one or the other, but things have always changed. That, too, is natural. She gets up and grabs a pot to start dinner. I heard from the social worker today. I stopped doodling. Your mom is doing well. Yeah. She has to bring this up. But what's funny is the buzz doesn't whisper anything. I feel sad. I feel scared. But that's it. Aunt Bee glances over at me. You know that even if you go home with your mom, you can still come visit me, right? Yeah, I say, chin on the tabletop. She nudges my elbow. Red would miss you if you didn't. A laugh escapes my lips. What about Rufus? You and Rufus are both going to have to fly free of me soon, and that's how it's supposed to be. I lean my head back against a chair. Is it? Mom has recovered over other times. She would come to Graham's and hug me and we'd be fine for a while, but it never lasted. I don't blame Mom. I've seen how hard she fights the sadness when she can. Seems the balance shifts to her side, but the sadness is bigger than Mom and me put together. What if I can have a voice in this fight? A choice? What if I want to stay? The words escape my lips before I really understand what I've said. Aunt Bee gets her flustered face. Stay? Here? She picks up my pen, rolls it between her fingers. Well, of course, as long as you need to, like I said before. But Reenie, I stopped her before she could say anything else. It's okay. I get it. None of us have any choices, not with the state involved. But what if it doesn't work out, I ask. Her face crumples, her wrinkles getting wrinkles. I don't want to upset her more, especially over a question I know has no answer. With Rufus, what if his wing doesn't heal completely? The switch over to the topic of Rufus seems to calm Aunt Bee, as I guessed it would. Then I petitioned the falconry school in the state to let me keep him as an educational bird. Wait, I'm all eyes and ears on her. That's an option? Aunt Bee shrugs. Either that or see if the Natural Science Center will take him. If not either of those, then he'll have to be put down. My heart rate dropped from full speed excitement to heart-stalled dread. Put down? Aunt Bee rumples my hair. That's a slim possibility. I think he's going to be ready to go back home. Speaking of which, she says, we have to start getting him hunting. But he can't fly free yet. He might fly off and... Whoa now, Aunt Bee says, smiling. You train a bird to hunt with you in stages, same way we manage him for the hunt. My heart drops back into my chest. Right, I say, obviously. Obviously, Aunt Bee says, smirking. I'll get some things together. Okay, I say, but my mind is stuck on the fact that there is at least a chance, a possibility, the merest sliver of a prospect that Rufus could stay. Chapter 20, Rufus. The brown frizz appears at my nest but does not pick open the web and come inside. Strange. Instead, she kneels down, pushes open a space in the web, and pokes something inside. Even more strange. The something rolls like an egg. It is an egg. I stretch my wings and drop beside the egg. I snatch at it with a claw. It's hard. My talon slips over it, and it hops away, unscathed. The audacity of this egg, scampering off from a great horned owl. You cannot escape me, egg. I am all talons after this egg. It hops and scrambles, but I am fast and cunning and, nope, got away again. Die, egg! I pierce it with a claw. Nothing. Honestly, owl, did your mother teach you nothing? Red is glaring down from her perch near the opening. That's cold. How could she say such a thing knowing what she knows? I'm being serious, she squawks. Did she teach you anything? Because that is not how we birds of prey hunt. Do you think I stomp around in the grass hoping to pierce a meal on my talons? Wait. Did she screech, hunt? Mother never would have sunk so low as to bob along the grass after a meal. No, she dropped down like the night sky itself, her talons invisible until they sliced into their target. That's it. I have to smother this egg. That's the trick of it. I flap up, fix my eyes on the egg, stretch forward with my talons and dive down onto it. 4 toes grips its smooth surface and squeeze. The egg is mine. I peck it for good measure. It is very hard. I will not do that again. The brown frizz is giving off good feelings, so apparently the egg hunt is what she's been hoping for. Nice catch, Red screeches from her perch. Now try it again. She turns her head away towards the space between our nest and the human nest, or the perch meadow, as I like to think of it. If I can hunt this egg once, I can do it again. Releasing my talons, I let the egg roll. I hop after it, but my talons keep slipping off each time I reach out to grab it. Have I learned nothing? I flap up, sight the egg, extend my talons so they're nearly at the tip of my beak, and crash down on the egg. It is mine! I release it again and smash down upon it. I do it again and again. I am master of the egg. The brown frizz is practically buzzing with good feelings. She comes inside the web and calls me to her perch with a scrap of mouse, which is just the thing I'm needing about now after all that egg hunting. As I swallow it down, she attaches the infernal tails and vine to my legs, Sparkles, and walks us into the perch meadow. She lifts the paw, and I fly to the nearest perch. I glance around the space, taking in the late afternoon light, the rush of the day noises, which are mostly the furless creatures growling monsters. The gray tail has come out of the human nest and walks across the perch meadow. A crow flaps far off, its call like a talon through my ears. My ear tufts flatten. I really hate crows. Just hearing them brings back the long ago day in the woods, the swarm having to walk humiliated through the leaves. The brown frizz cries out, interrupting my dark thoughts, and suddenly I see a rustling in the grass. Is the brown frizz warning of danger? Tufts up. The grass rustles again, and now I see what appears to be a mouse with a large green wing sticking out of its back. The mouse hops. If I can catch an egg, I can catch this mouse. Okay, first steps. Prepare for flight. Open wings, get some air, take aim, talons out, now dive. I am like a bolt of lightning shooting down from the clouds. I stretch my talons wide and smash down on that mouse, and oh, it's dead. The green wing is hard and shiny and definitely not a normal part of a mouse. There is a vine coming off the green wing, and ah yes, the brown frizz is holding the end of the vine. So we are both on vines, eh, mouse? But you are dead, and I am not. So I'm calling you dinner. I rip off a beakful, and the brown frizz shuffles over to her little toe covers, and removes the green wing, because I know she won't take my mouse. I let her. After I eat, I flap up on the perch. Red swoops down from a tree. When did she get out of her nest? You're catching on quick, she chirps. I'm a great horned owl, I say. Even the absolute worst great horned owl is still a great horned owl. Red raises her crown, feathers fluffing. Oh, are you now? I am a great horned owl, I screech. The brown frizz tweets and holds up her paw, and I soar across the perch meadow. As I pass the forest, I hear the thrum of life, heartbeats in the grass. I could catch them all, I know it. I twist, I flap. The brown frizz whistles again. I glance back at her, and she shakes the paw. There's a mouse on it. Ah, the forest can wait. I bank again, flap, and soar over to her paw. She's giving off waves of fear. Her heartbeat pounds. Did I do that? I'm sorry, brown frizz, I peep, nibbling at her frizzy head fur. I just heard the call. You heard it. Red sits atop the gray tail's paw. Her amber eyes bore into me. I turn to look again into the deepening black of the forest. The heartbeats pound. The darkness pulls me. I feel it. Red fluffs her crown again, then rouses. That's good, she chirps. Very good. The brown frizz puts me back in my nest, and I flap up to my favorite perch. Something has changed, though. The roof feels so much lower, like it's pressing down on my tufts. The walls feel so much closer around me, though I can still flap as far. How can the world change without actually changing? As the dawn breaks, I hear the sound of squeaking. The brown frizz is nearby, but outside my nest. The squeaking is definitely inside. Glancing around in the half day, I see movement across the dirt. I twitch my feathers. The heartbeats sweep and swerve and then stop. The dark patch of dirt below me is no longer a stretch of black. In the corner, the noise of the heartbeats glows slightly. I can see the heartbeats. I can see the mouse. This is just like the egg. This is hunting. I lift and stretch my wings and drop silently. I extend my legs forward, talons near my beak. The mouse scuttles along the wall. I hear you. I see you. I flap, swerve, and adjust my feet, all silently like a movement of the night itself. I dive, dropping like rain. I hit the mouse, squeeze my talons. The heartbeat stops. I caught the mouse. I did it, I screech. Red squawks, flapping loudly. What skunk? Where? No skunk, Red. I caught a mouse right here. It snuck into my nest. I grab the meat in my beak and gobble it down in one gulp. I haven't tasted anything like it since Mother. Well done, hatchling, Red tweets. The brown frizz is clapping her wing toes and hooting with joy. The gray tail is with her and is giving off good feelings. I did it. I hunted. I am no longer the absolute worst great horned owl in all of owldom. If I can hunt, I've definitely moved up to being one of the marginally capable great horned owls who probably still won't survive the winter. And that's a start. Chapter 21, Reenie. How can so many good things make me feel so terrible? Mom called this morning to say she's looking at an apartment and that soon I could start doing overnights with her at our new place. Our new place. A place where I'm going to have to start all over again. And Rufus caught a mouse on his first try. Aunt Bee couldn't believe it. He's a prodigy, she cried out. I knew he was a genius. I've always believed in him. But to have it to be real, to have him be so close to finished with me, it's all happening too fast and all at once. And what if it doesn't work out? What if when we fly him free, he flies away? What if he's not ready? What if he starves and it's my fault? It's good to know that worst case, we keep him. Maybe even not just worst case. Maureen? Mr. Brown is standing over me, tapping his arm. I have no idea what's going on. Your team, how far along are you guys on your project? We're going to get together this weekend to finalize everything, Jamie says, nudging me with her foot under the table. Yes. Did we actually agree to that? What if I have to do this overnight with my mom? Sounds great, Mr. Brown says, walking on. I'm really looking forward to your presentation. We can meet at my house, Jamie says, practically vibrating with excitement. I'm supposed to go to my dad's for the weekend, Jackson says. Do I tell them about my mom getting better? About me possibly moving maybe next week? Before we even get to do the presentation? No, that's just too much to explain. Too many maybes. Can we do it today after school? Then even if I have an overnight, it won't matter. Jackson shrugs. My dad isn't picking me up until 6. I could text my mom. Can I text my aunt? I ask, holding out a hand for someone's phone. Jamie says, I'll go get my phone from my locker. This is the best day ever. She heads to the hallway. Jackson and I take off for recess in our spot behind the bushes. What if it's my last day? What if this overnight with my mom goes well and the state sends me away from here? Jackson would be fine, but Jamie, she's already lost 2 friends, and now she has Jackson. Would they even notice I was gone? I scratch my wood so hard it splits in 2. Jackson gasps. His face contorts like he's just witnessed a murder. We can glue it. I drop the pieces. It wasn't working anyway. I spend the rest of the recess piling up pebbles and knocking them down. Aunt Bee texts back while we were outside that she can pick me up at Jamie's house, and Jackson's mom offered to give us a ride after school. Jackson told her we could take the bus, but she insisted. She shows up in scrubs with messy curls springing from her updo. She took a break during her shift as the doctor's office. It's great to meet you, girl, she says, pulling out of the school's parking lot. I've heard so much about you. Jackson's turning a shade of red, last seen on a beat. Jamie and I glance at each other and have to choke down a laugh because just the thought of Jackson saying anything at all about us, let alone so much, is too funny. Maureen, Jackson says you have an owl you're rehabilitating. He helped his dad with a rescued hawk once. I told her about Rufus. Yeah. She's setting him free soon, Jackson says. If he gets better, I correct. If not, we might have to keep him. Perhaps Jackson is not aware of this fantastic option. You said he's hunting, Jackson says, eyebrows crinkling. Turn here, Jamie interrupts. Thank goodness for needing to give directions. I don't want to argue with Jackson about my owl. We pull into the development where it looks like a giant machine plunked down identical houses, 1, 2, 3, along the stretch of road. Jamie points to the one that's sort of bluish, and we pull up to the door. Is your mom home? Jackson's mom asks. She'll be home soon, Jamie says non-committally. Oh, Jackson's mom says. It's okay, I say. We have Jamie's cell phone. Jackson's mom eyes the house like it's trouble. All right, she says. I'm going back to the office, but it's just a few blocks away, so I can be here ASAP if you need anything. We slide out of the car and walk to the driveway. Your mom never leaves you home alone, Jamie asks. Jackson shrugs. She told me not until I'm 13. I turned 10 and my parents were like, here's the key. We'll see you at 5. Jamie brandishes a key and jams it in the door. It's funny to think of Jackson being babied like that. He seems so independent, so self-contained, like a hermit crab. But maybe his mom doesn't see him that way. Will Mom give me a key to our new apartment? Will I come home on some strange new bus to some strange new place to wait for her to come home from some job, if she gets the apartment? Jamie lets Jackson and me into the foyer. Whoa, Jackson says. His voice echoes around the cavernous rooms, bouncing off shiny glass and polished wood. Jamie flips on lights as she walks down a 2-story hallway into a white and blue kitchen of curving plastic cabinets and glass tiles that look like it's designed for a space station. We huddle around a massive round white stone table reminiscent of King Arthur's. Jamie grabs a box of cookies from the huge closet full of food, then a gallon of chocolate milk from the fridge and 3 glasses. I've always wondered what family buys not milk and chocolate mix, but the whole gallon of pre-mixed chocolate milk, tasting the rich yumminess of it, a fullness of chocolatey goodness that I've never achieved with my powdered additives, makes up somewhat for the imposing, off-putting wealth of the place. I've lived in apartments that were smaller than this kitchen. Your house is really shiny, I say. The stone of the table literally glitters. My mom has a scrapbook filled with pictures of kitchens like this, Jackson says, gulping chocolate milk. Some nights she takes it out during dinner and pretends. Jamie runs her fingers over the tabletop. It's too big. When we eat dinner, my mom and dad and me, we're so far apart, it's like we're eating alone. She hefts her bag onto the table, but it's perfect for projects, plenty of space. She produces a laptop computer and a tablet and her phone from her bag, then goes over and opens another closet, which is stacked with labeled plastic boxes filled with things like ribbons and markers and duct tape, a whole box full of different colors of duct tape. When Jamie told me she liked making stuff, I hadn't quite understood the scale of her operation. She digs a tall trifold presentation board out of the corner. I was thinking we could put all of our research on this. She unfolds the cardboard, spreading it flat on the table. Jackson stares at the cavern of boxed craft supplies. You have a whole box just for buttons? Jamie glances back to the closet. That's old, she says, picking a cookie from the carton. When I was little, my mom and I used to do crafts a lot, but that was forever ago. The other day I asked her if she wanted to melt some crayons with me, and she said, aren't you too old for that? The hurt and lonely look in Jamie's face was only there for a second, but it's one I knew well. There's so many ways to lose a parent. even when they still live in the same house. I like doing crafts, I say. I'll melt crayons with you anytime. Whittling a craft, Jackson adds. Maybe that should be our team name, the Crafty Hunters, I say. The Whittling Woodsman, Jamie offers, a tiny smile peeking through. Perfect, Jackson says. Jamie looks like she's about to cry, but instead she turns on her tablet. I made this chart to show how many people hunt in Vermont. It's a neat rectangle with different bars for each kind of license: fishing, bow hunting, duck hunting, falconry. I did these, Jackson says, laying a stack of drawings on the table. Pictures of a kid in hunting fatigues, a hunting rifle, people in a boat covered in grass for duck hunting with labels for the specific parts of each. We can put them on the poster around the chart, I say, holding one up. I also made flashcards for the debate. Jamie hands me a stack. Did you know that hunters were behind the early conservation movement, I read? President Teddy Roosevelt wanted to save the land and the animals, in part so he could keep hunting them. Hunters are still a big part of conservation efforts, Jackson says, sounding defensive already. And it's even good for the deer. If hunters didn't keep the deer population down, they'd starve in the winter. I don't think you can say it's good for the deer who gets shot, Jamie says. The audience has seen Bambi. Jackson blushes and begins shading a corner of the hunting rifle. Bambi is rough, but it's also a lie. You're not supposed to shoot does. Law says you can shoot does, Jamie tapped away on her keyboard. But isn't that just nature? I asked, thinking of Rufus and the white mice I'm sacrificing to him. Hunters eat the deer meat, right? So some do, some donate it to food pantries. Jackson switches pencils and continues shading. But the point is that hunting can be a part of the ecosystem, I say. We don't have big predators, so there has to be some way to fill that role in the food chain. So like hunters can balance things out? Here, Jamie says, handing me a note card. Write that down. Speaking of food chain, Jackson says, reaching for another cookie. I just can't get past the dead animals, Jamie says, pushing away one of Jackson's drawings. It's not why I hunt, he says, still scribbling on a sketch. I guess there might be some people who do it for the killing, but my dad and I, we do it to be together in the woods. He hunted with his dad, and it's nice to be together in the quiet, watching for a lucky shot. And when you do kill something, you don't let it suffer. It's why you do falconry, right, Renee? I'm about to blurt, no, it's because of the birds. But then I see me walking through the woods with Red and with Aunt Bee, training Rufus with Aunt Bee. It started with Red, I say, but even that's all because of my aunt. Jamie begins scribbling in another new card. Here, she says, sliding it across the table. She wrote, hunting is about family. Tears squeeze out along my eyelashes. Before reading that, I'd forgotten that Aunt Bee really is family and completely missed that. Over these past few weeks, it's what we'd become. Jackson peeks at the card. That's better. I wipe my face with the back of my hand and nod. Yeah, I place the card so it's the finale. When we get home, Aunt Bee and I rush to feed the beast. Inside his aviary, Rufus is flappy, hopping from perch to perch. I take him out and fly him across the yard a few times on the creance to let him stretch his wings. He's looking good, Aunt Bee says. I think we should try flying him free tomorrow. Rufus swoops across the grass, flaps once, and alights on my fist, gobbling the tidbit down and then squawking for more. You think he's ready? I rub under his beak and he playfully bites my fingers. Do you? Aunt Bee whistles and Red screeches, then emerges from the trees. Rufus peeps and twitters, chattering on about something, but most likely he just wants more food. I place him on the farthest perch and walk back, and then Rufus shuffles around to face me and barks a raspy squawk. I hold up my fist and whistle. He's instantly off the perch, flying right to me, and hits the glove right where I tapped. He's proud of himself, I can tell by the way he gobbles down the tidbit and then gazes down his beak at the world. He thinks he's hot stuff. He's ready, I say. It's me who's not ready. Aunt Bee's phone rings inside the house. Rufus and Red both snap their heads in the direction of the noise. Aunt Bee sends Red off into the trees and runs for the phone. Through the glass of the sliding door, I see her glance at the number and pause before answering. Rufus squawks, nibbles my hair. He can sense when things start going all wonky inside me, and my guts are suddenly boiling. Aunt Bee sticks her head out the door. "It's your mom," she says, waving the phone. Mom calls every night now, but usually around 8 before I go to bed. It's not even 6:30. I start walking toward the house. Aunt Bee points to my outstretched arm. "You want to leave the bird?" Rufus swivels his head around. "No," I say, reaching out to take the cell phone. "Reens!" Mom's voice is all strangled. I don't even want to ask. "Hey, Mom," I say, trying to sound cheerful. "What's up?" "Oh, Reens, just... I have to blurt it out. We got the apartment. I can't believe it. There's so much paperwork, and I had to talk to all these people to get approved. But it all worked out just like that." Rufus bobs his head, tilts it like he can't quite comprehend what's coming out of the phone. "Reenie," Mom asked, "did I lose ya? We got our apartment. Did you hear?" My brain snags on the word "our." "Oh, yeah. It's great. 2 bedrooms, and you can go back to Rutland Intermediate, see all your old friends." I want to tell her I have no friends there. I say nothing. I have the weekend to get our stuff from Graham's, and then we move in next week. Randy, the social worker, she said we could do our visitation on Tuesday at the place. Maybe try an overnight next weekend. What do you think? "That's great," I say, because what else can I say? Rufus digs his talons into the glove. He knows everything's sliding off the rails. I take a deep breath. I have to calm down for Rufus. "No, really," I add, rejecting calm and control. "I'm sure it's really nice." "You're going to love it, Reenie Beanie," Mom says, though she doesn't sound 100%. A part of me wants to say, "Of course I will." But then I look at Aunt Bee and the warm light in the kitchen, and Rufus twitters and squeezes my hand through the glove, and I can't imagine loving anywhere else on earth. "Okay," I say, "I'll call tomorrow to give you an update." "Great." We say goodnight, and we say we love each other. "Everything all right?" Aunt Bee asked. The buzz has returned like a nightmare, familiar and awful all at once. Rufus must sense it because he baits, flapping and scratching, and I do nothing for a second because I feel exactly like that, caught, frantic, whole world upside down. I grab him, set him right on my fist. At least I can save my owl. "Everything's fine," I tell Beatrice, because that's just how things always have to be. Fine. Chapter 22. Rufus. The night is cold. The usual noises are silent, as if the summer forest dwellers all as one dug down into their holes or flew off after the warmth. I fluff my feathers, lifting each downy fluff to its fluffiest. This is the first whiff of the winter Mother warned of. This is the bird-killing time. Father would often hoot about this, his first winter. "Barely caught a mouse a day," he squawked. And that was a good year. He'd screech about winds nearly blowing him off his branch, of flying through snow so thick he couldn't see the tips of his primaries, of ice on the lake catching water birds by their webbed feet. "Easy meals, those birds," he added. It sounded like the birds froze in the lake when they landed. Even First would shudder to hear these stories. I was ready to crawl back into my eggshell. Finally, one night, I asked Mother, "Why does he tell us about this?" She sighed and then groomed my ear tufts with her beak. "He wants you to be ready." How can a bird get ready for rain freezing his feathers into a sheet of ice? Mother shuffled through her beak. "I guess there's no getting ready for that." She ran a talon over my skull. "Your father just wants you to know that there's a whole world outside this nest, and it's not a friendly one." I'd always meant to ask her why we didn't fly away to a friendlier world. Were you ever out in the winter, Red?" I hoot softly. I can tell from her heartbeat that she's only pretending to sleep. "No," she tweets. "That's a blessing." She rouses, shifts her footing on the perch. Too many sad stories have come through this place. Broken wings, birds so hungry they lie on their chest feathers and can't lift a talon. Winter is cruel. Then why have winter, I ask. Red flaps her wings as if shooing my hoots away. Do you think we have a choice? Why not fly with the warmth, like the honkers? I think that's geese. Mother hated the honkers, always flying low over our nest like there was something in it for them. Honkers? They can't do anything but fly after the warmth. It's in their gizzards. Is your gizzard telling you to fly somewhere? I turn my eyes inward, dig deep inside. No, I hoot. My gizzard isn't pointing me anywhere. But why not? Why is nature like that? Every creature in the forest has its role to play in every season too. Winter lets the ground sleep and renew itself, but winter also keeps the balance. Only the strongest can survive. Meaning winters pick off the absolute worst owls in all of owldom, so that the absolute best owls can find more mice. Meaning winter is meant to cull out me. But I don't want to be culled. How will I survive the winter? I peeped, afraid to hoot it too loudly. Maybe you won't, Red screeches. Birds who ask questions like that don't make it too long out in the forest. That just about gets me fluffed. Here I am asking her honest questions and she's screeching back nastiness. Why is she being so mean? Or is she being mean at all? Perhaps Red is trying to push me, as usual. I will survive the winter, I hoot, trying it out. You will, Red squawks. How's that? I will hunt. Hunt how? She's in the opening now, peering in at me. I will listen, I hoot, tipping my head. And, she tilts her head to match mine, and I will find the heartbeats, I say. I will glide between the snowflakes and crash down like lightning with my talons. Her eyes sparkle. Perhaps you will survive. She flaps away from the opening, across her nest to her favorite perch near the roof. Now get some rest, hatchling. Warmth unfurls inside me as I picture what I just hooted. I hunch down between my wings, close my eyes, and open my ears. The silence fluffs out into layers, stillness and quiet and fullness, all different breeds of silence, and hidden among these are pockets of noise, of life. I will survive the winter, I promise the silence. I will live to see spring. The brown frizz sneaks out to my nest in the darkness, sending the hidden crickets springing from the stiff grass. I can see her well enough as she stumbles over the tussocks. She slaps her winged toes against the wall of my nest and crouches down like she's hiding. You cannot hide from me, brown frizz, I hoot. She shudders, giving off good feelings, and then she toots out her beakless maw in approximation of great beak. Is she trying to hoot back to me? Brown frizz, this is embarrassing for us both, I hoot. Hoot, 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 she replies. Absolute gibberish. Ah, well, she is family after all. I hoot back at her, mimicking her ridiculous owlish. She practically explodes with good feelings and hoots back at me some more. We go on like this, hooting back and forth, and by the end, she's almost has a decent, get away from my nest, you bent primary feather. She plunks her tailless bottom in the dirt, leans her back against the wall of my nest, and begins growling in furless creature ease, which is truly the ugliest means of communication. That means she's talking. I flap down to a lower perch to see if there's any mouse bits coming my way. All that hooting made me hungry, but no, she just sits and grumbles, mumbling on like this isn't getting either of us anywhere, particularly as regards to breakfast, which I'm sensing is due. Excuse me, Brown Frizz, but might there be any mouse in your pocket? It's a wonderful thing about furless creatures that they have little pockets full of meat. She sucks in air and lets out a long breath, then rolls onto her haunches and produces a squeaking something, which she drops in through a space in my nest wall. She wants me to hunt. I am an owl who will live to see spring. Hunt I shall. Bobbing my head, I lock on the mouse's position, scuttling along the edge of the wall like it can hide from me in the shadows. There is no hiding from a great horned owl. I flap, twist, dive, and slam down on the mobile meal. I am ruler of all I survey. For fluff's sake, would you shut your beak, Red Squawks? Some birds are still trying to sleep. But the brown Frizz and I are pumped full of good feelings. She's hooting and twittering at me like I'm hunting, like my hunting has anything to do with her. But that's family, I guess. Mother was always excited to see me hunt. At least now I'm actually catching things. I gobble down the mouse. The brown Frizz opens the web and comes in, paw on. I flap up to it and nip at her face to say hello. She sneaks those infernal tails onto my legs, Sparkles, but I don't mind them nearly so much now. I hardly end up tufts down like a bat these days. We head out into the perch meadow, and I see that the gray tail is also out in this half day. She grumbles at the brown Frizz, and they have a bit of a hoot about something. The brown Frizz then swings her paw, which is our signal for me to fly off to the nearest perch. There's a dead tree a flap away, and I land, then turn to look at the brown Frizz. This next part is my favorite. Yes, there it is. She gives off a little tweet, a smack winged toe on the paw, and waggles a bit of meat hidden there from her pocket of yummies. That is the signal for me to fly back to the paw for said yummies. I gobble that mouse bit right down and squawk for another. But the furless creatures are chattering to themselves. Something exciting has happened. What? I peep. The brown Frizz runs a wing toe over my chest feathers. She is giving off a gust of good feeling. Whatever happens, it is good. Whatever happened, it is good. She swings the paw and I flap off again, this time to a different perch, just to keep things interesting. Again, I turn and she taps her paw, and I fly to it and gulp the yummy meat. The furless creatures are practically bouncing on their little talon toes, and yet none of this is the least bit unusual. We have been doing this every day and half night for ages. What's going on with you furless creatures? I squawk. This only leaves them both to start chittering like happy chirps, like a couple of squirrels in a tree full of nuts. Take a peek at your legs, hatchling, Red calls from her nest. I bend over, peck at my leg, Sparkles. They're still there, and the infernal tails hang down and are gripped in the brown Frizz's paw. Where's the vine? Every time we fly out here, there's a little vine on my leg tails. Now it's gone. I'm flying free. I look up. I'm flying free. An instinct to fly free, far, launches me from the paw, and I soar up, landing on a branch in a tall sugar sap tree near the furless creature's nest. I'm dizzy being so far from the ground. I tighten my grip, steady my gizzard. This is a perch for a great horned owl. From here I can see the trees deep into the forest, the twitch of 1,000 branches, dry leaves rasping, crunching, whistling through the breeze as they fall to the ground. Songbirds flitting between them, their tiny hearts thrumming. Insects buzzing under the fallen leaves, zipping away from the birds. A moth fumbling through a gust of air, and all the prey I could ever hope to swallow, pulsing beneath the shadows, rustling among the dry leaves, scurrying amid the grasses, digging down into their dens. Thweet! The brown Frizz is holding up her paw, tapping, waving the bit of meat from her pocket. There's a whole wide world out there. A crow comes cawing out of nowhere, and then another, and then more, until there's a veritable swarm perching in the nearby trees. There's a whole wide world full of things that want me dead. But just there, in the perch meadow, is a furless thing that wants to keep me safe. It's not even a choice. Chapter 23, Reenie. I got you something Aunt Bee says at breakfast Saturday. The plan is to head out around sunset for our first walk in the woods with Rufus, which means I have a whole day to suffer through, which is probably a good thing since I still have to finish up my research for the hunting project. Is it my essay for school, I say? Aunt Bee snuffles a laugh. Sorry, but no. Excitement hums in my belly when I see her lift a brand new falconry waistcoat from a bag. She shakes it out. There's a real knife in the holster, so don't get silly with it. But Mom just called to say, if I'm leaving, why buy me a whole vest? Because you're a falconer, she says, cutting me off, and a falconer needs the right equipment. I let her hold it while I slip my arms in. It's heavy canvas with big pockets covered with thick flaps of material. It fits perfectly. Thank you, I manage, tears prickling out from the corners of my eyes. She smiles. You've earned it. She stands, collects her dishes. Now finish that schoolwork or we're not flying that owl. I salute her as I go to work, my new vest wrapped around me for good luck. As the lights turn golden, I finish typing up all my notes. Falconry hasn't changed much over the centuries. The ancient kings whose hawks soared over Middle Eastern deserts are kin to King Arthur, whose falcons flew across English moors, and with Aunt Bee and Red, and with me, I'm connected to something deep and true in the world, like I'm part of this thread reaching back through time and stretching forward into the future. I hunt through the house for Aunt Bee. I've got to show her my finished essay, but she's outside, standing in the yard, flying red and using a lure. This one meant to imitate a rabbit, but it's really a stuffed sock made of fur. She tosses the tidbit-laden rabbit lure into the grass, then drags it fast across the ground. Red dive bombs from above, hitting the lure like a missile. I was so into my essay, I'd forgotten that we're taking Rufus to fly. Is it time, I ask, shrugging on the fleece jacket under my vest as I step out the back door and trundle down the wooden steps. I finished my project. Aunt Bee calls Red to the fist, and she lands there within an instant. About, Aunt Bee says, feeding Red her tidbit. I get Rufus from his aviary as Aunt Bee puts Red back in hers. We're flying Rufus solo in the woods. It's his first time, so we agreed 2 sets of eyes would work better than 1. You sure you shouldn't put on a radio on him? Aunt Bee nods, handing me her pouch of tidbits. If he flies off, that's how it should be anyway. Her words bruise my insides. I know she's right. I know that's what we've been working towards, but I can't just yet. I can't even think about it. I tuck the pouch into my vest pocket. We fly him in the yard a few times just to remind him about returning to the fist. My confidence builds each time he hits the glove. We're ready, I keep telling myself. You're ready. I send out to Rufus, as if my mind can penetrate his. It's time, Aunt Bee says, checking the sky. A plume of dust signals a car coming down the road. We'd agreed cars would be bad for Rufus, and we'd wait for any to be clear out before heading into the woods to fly him. I call Rufus to the glove just to keep him focused until the car passes. Only this truck actually pulls into Aunt Bee's driveway. I visor a hand over my eyes to try and see who it is, because who would be coming to visit unannounced at sundown on Saturday? It takes me a second to register the blue lights on top of the truck, and then a man in a uniform with the fish and wildlife symbol Jackson's been sketching for our project emblazoned on his vest. Aunt Bee's jaw clenches. Stay here, she says, holding up a hand, like I need more than words to comprehend the full depth of her meaning. I'm fully aware of that depth. Aunt Bee warns me that first night, this is a rehab bird. We make him better, and then we release him back out into his wildlife. But I wouldn't listen. Hello, are you Beatrice? Says a man's voice attached to the silhouette that steps onto the lawn. Hello, Warden, she says, walking his way. Her legs are stiff, like she's been dragged towards him by some tractor beam. Jim Duche, he says, then looks past her right at me. I'm here about a rehab owl. His head nods in my direction, at Rufus. I don't have you registered to fly anything but that hawk, he says, examining a notepad in his hand. And have you signed on for an apprentice this season that I don't know about? The laws we've broken flash before my eyes. I can pick out each one of Jackson's manuals. Each one from Jackson's manual. Unlicensed falconer, me. Unauthorized bird, the owl on my fist. The punishments for each, loss of falconry permit, meaning the loss of the privilege of keeping a raptor, of keeping red. Aunt Bee seems to shrink as she approaches him. Well, Warden, there's a bit of a story here. Bit of a story? No story, just me. Me and my need to train Rufus, and then the name registers. Duché. I look back at the truck. Jackson sits in the passenger seat. He told his dad about Rufus. A black hole opens in my gut and my inside shrivel down into it. I did this. Me. How could I have been so stupid? I knew friends were dangerous. I let myself go for 1 second, let 2 people in, and now it's happening all over again. Just like with the stupid birthday party I begged my mother to host. The warden holds up a hand to stop Aunt Bee mid-sentence. I have to fix this. It's my fault, I say, walking straight over towards the warden. I made Maureen, Aunt Bee snaps, slicing a hand back at me. The warden's eyebrows narrow. The notepad in his hand is not a regular notepad. It's a bound stack of citation forms. Citations for violations of the rules. He's already decided. I step back. Aunt Bee will lose everything she loves because of me. I had thought the worst thing that could happen was me being taken away from here, but no, the worst thing is me destroying everything here that I love. I can't let this happen. I run headlong into the trees, fists clenched on Rufus's jesses. He's screeching, flapping to stay upright as I barrel through the underbrush. If we're not there, the game warden can't give Aunt Bee a citation. He can't take her license. He can't ruin her life, not because of me. My toe hooks on a roof and I tumble down. My hands instinctively jerk forward to cushion my fall. Rufus flies off my fist, screeches as he lifts into the nest of branches. Rufus, I scream. I roll over, search the air, but it's just branches and leaves and shadow. Rufus! A twig snaps. A chickadee cries out. I scramble to my feet, rush through the brambles to the clearing. Rufus! Owls are invisible, designed to blend with the forest and silent, with feathers fringed in fluff to keep even the air molecules from giving them away. My eyes scan the tree branches. Could that be him? What about the lump in the thicket? My heart pounds. He's not ready. He hasn't flown alone in the dark forest for weeks. I'm ruining everything. Aunt Bee's life, Rufus's life, my own life. Please, no. Rufus! I run to the next clearing, then to the next, searching the shadows. Branches tug at my pants, my fleece, the vest. I'm streaked with scratches and prickles that burrs with burrs. I can barely see. Thick tears cloud my eyes. I keep going, push farther into the brush. Mud sucks at my boots, splatters my jeans. My gauntlet gets snagged on a pricker vine. I stop to untangle it. Wings flash. Could it be? Forget the glove. I wrench my hand free of it and dive through the ferns. Over fallen logs, my face whipped by switches of yellow leaves. Hidden creatures skitter away from me in the rustle of leaf litter. Good, stay away from me. I'm a hurricane of bad. I destroy every good thing I touch. A wide stream cuts through the woods, leaving a space in the canopy of leaves. The sky is the deepening blue of evening. The shadows all around me have lengthened into broad strips of black. I'm in a hollow, a dip in the earth, meaning I can only barely guess at what direction I'm facing. And I have no idea where Aunt Bee's house is, even if I could figure out which way is west. A chill creeps over me. I'm lost. I fall to my knees. Rufus is lost. I slump farther down. I hear a screech. His screech? And it echoes from everywhere. He's really gone. I sink into the mud at the stream's edge, then lie back in the leaves. I failed my owl. I failed my aunt. It's my fault she did any of this. It's Jackson's fault, my anger says. But I can't even hold on to that anger. I knew the rules. I just didn't like them. I knew what was best for Rufus. It just wasn't what was best for me. This is all on me. It's like I was handed this glass bowl full of everything I ever wanted, and I bungled it, let it shatter to pieces. No, it's more than this, more than that. This perfect place was foolish enough to let me into it. I alone am enough to ruin anything. It's fully dark now. The cold mud along the stream's bank chills the whole of me. Shivers begin shattering my body. I'm so useless. I have no idea how to even start a fire without a match. So much for my side of the mountain fantasy. I feel my way away from the water to a tree and hunch my back against it. It's not until I hear sniffing that I remember I'm wearing a vest full of meat. I take the knife from its pocket and then hurl the vest as far from me as I can. I slide my back up the bark to stand against the tree and hit a branch. I should climb onto it. I fold the knife, store it in the pocket of my fleece, and hook my arms around the branch. Years of playground climbing have prepared me at least for this. I settle back on the branch. It's not too far up the tree. If I fall, I'm hoping for a sprained ankle, not a broken neck. Whatever I'd thought was sniffing is either silent as a ghost or gone. I'm not climbing down to find out which. Who cooks for you? Who cooks the food? A strange owl cries. It's a barred owl's call, not Rufus. I hold still and listen to hear it again. Barred owls have attacked people who've come too close to their nest, and I know what talons are capable of. As my ears strain to hear the angry owls approach, the night fills with other noises. A breeze sends the branches clacking, the leaves rustling, a twig snaps somewhere, animals moving, toads croak in the stream below me, tree frogs chirp, grasshoppers buzz, a growl, a snort. This is the world that injured Rufus, the world we saved him from, a world I've thrown him back into. If one of us has to be attacked, let it be me. Please let it be me. Reenie! It's Aunt Bee's voice. I'm here, I cry, and nearly fall out of my tree, leaning towards her voice. Reenie! A flashlight's beam slices the black, lands on my vest, which lies across some scrubby plants by the stream. Something's ripped a pocket. Oh, God, Reenie! Aunt Bee comes careening down the slope. I'm here, I shout again and drop down out of my tree. The flashlight's glow shows I was barely 4 feet high. Aunt Bee whips the light, catching me in its beam. The survival terror subsides and is replaced in an instant with horror at what I've done. Tears spring out. I'm so sorry. A sob bursts from my throat. Aunt Bee rushes to me, wraps her arms around me. That only makes me feel worse. I did this, I wail in her arms. I'm bad luck. Aunt Bee strokes my hair. What are you going on about? She pushes me off her chest, smooths a lock of hair from my face. The warden, I manage between hiccups of tears. It's my fault. I'm so sorry. I drop onto my knees. Reenie, Aunt Bee says, kneeling beside me. It was my choice to let you train that owl. My choice to help you. But that's not true, I say. I made you train him. If I hadn't been so stubborn, if I had listened to you, if I had followed the rules, I even knew the rules. I'm screaming now, hitting the dirt with my fist. That was Jackson's dad. I brought him here. Maureen, she says, any trouble I'm in is my own. You aren't to blame for anything. I know it's there in the back of your brain, so just say it. At least you could tell me the truth. Aunt Bee gives me a hard look, the look she's given another grown-up. I'll give you the truth, Maureen. The truth is, none of what you just said is true. She stands up, holds out a hand, and pulls me up from the leaves. The truth is, none of what that warden said to me is on you. It's my license on the line, my choices. Any trouble I'm in is mine. The good news is he's not giving me a formal citation, just an informal probation. I have to fill out some paperwork. Everything's going to be all right. Her words worm into me, cutting through the walls I've built around my heart. But I made you, I whisper. Aunt Bee snorts and wipes her face, and I realize she's crying too. Girl, you couldn't make me do anything, she smiles. If we aren't both the stubbornest moose in the forest, she hugs me to her tight. We walk back up the hill. Aunt Bee came down and she grabs my vest as we pass it. Barely torn, she says. Probably a fisher cat, maybe a skunk. I must have scared it off. Fisher cats are overgrown ferrets. Skunks are only feared for their stink. Here I'd imagine bears and catamounts, but the scariest thing that attacked me in the forest came from inside. My own fear was the most dangerous thing hunting me, and it's always on the prowl. Your friend was worried when he saw you run off, Aunt Bee says. I think his dad changed his mind about giving me a citation when he saw how upset his son was. Jackson? I hope you don't blame him. I don't. He was worried about Rufus. I should have thought more about Rufus. No, I should have helped you understand the rules better, kept both of us from having fun we shouldn't have had. She takes my hand. But I'd wager what we did, I think you saved that owl's life. I pick a burr from my vest. Not tonight. Tonight I lost him. No, she says, holding a dead branch out of the way for me. He went home. It's where he belongs. She puts her arm around my shoulders as we step over a log. I tripped and he was thrown off my arm, I say. He must think I threw him away. He's a bird, Reenie, she says. He thinks you sent him flying. He's probably out hunting mice and stretching his wings. What about the jesses? He'll get them tangled on a branch and die because of me. I cut all my jesses so they break if they get tangled up in branches. He'll be lonely, I said, and cold. He's a great horned owl, she says. They live alone unless they're raising a family, and he has a coat of downy feathers to keep him warm. He wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, is what I mean. She squeezed my hand. He was. Her eyes hold mine as if to stress how okay he is. We crunched through the last of the deep leaf pile as we neared the house. You helped that owl more than he'll ever know, Aunt Bee says. He'll probably live through the winter because of you. I let the words in, lay them like a stones, started to build the foundation of trusting this idea, that Rufus was ready, that I did something right. Yeah, I say. I step through the last bush and into the yard. I just wish I'd gotten a chance to say goodbye. Aunt Bee stops dead, points toward the mews. I think you'll get your chance. I follow her finger, and there, perched on the roof of his house, is my Rufus. Joy explodes through me, and every nerve is on fire. A smile erupts so big it nearly breaks my face, and I can barely get a whistle out to call him to me, but I do, and he soars down through the night, too fast for me to realize I have no glove on, so he hits my arm like a 2-ton truck and clenches with his vice-like talons. I grit my teeth, control myself to keep from screaming. At least I'm wearing a thick fleece, otherwise I'd have serious holes in my skin. Rufus is all a twitter. He nibbles my hair and screeches for food. I dig into what remains of a vest pocket and find a tidbit. He gobbles it down. My good boy, I whisper to him, tears streaming down my face. You came home, my dear boy. We settle Rufus back in his aviary, and Aunt Bee tosses in a live mouse, which Rufus hunts like a pro. Good night, good buddy, I whisper through the bars, and then I hoot our special hoot, and he hoots back to me, and I know he's as happy to see me as I am to see him. Inside, Aunt Bee pulls out bread, butter, and cheese, and we start making food. He came back, I say, as I fry the grilled cheese sandwiches for us. That's not a good thing, she says, pouring some milk. Of course it's a good thing, I say, slapping the gooey sandwiches on a plate. He isn't ready yet. He still needs me. Aunt Bee takes her plate and begins to eat standing up. He can hunt, she says. He can fly, meaning his wings healed. There's no reason he couldn't have been released today, and he was released, but he came back here instead of flying free. I take my sandwich to the table and sit pertly in my chair, which means he isn't ready. Aunt Bee sits next to me. which means he's getting too comfortable. Remember the goal here, Rennie? We want him to go away and never come back. He deserves to live a wild owl's natural life. I stuff a huge bite into my mouth and take my time chewing. What's so good about a wild owl's natural life? The question answers itself. It's the life he's meant to lead. She's right. I know she's right. We need to start separating from him, Aunt Bee says, finishing her sandwich and standing to put her plate in the sink. We need to get him thinking about living on his own. I take a long sip of my milk. So what? I shouldn't go out and talk to him? Aunt Bee must hear the abject misery in my voice because she smiles and says, how about one more visit? We'll start tomorrow on moving him to more private quarters. Warmth blooms and fills me, toes to frizz. One more visit. I gulp down my sandwich and head to the sink to start on dishes. Aunt Bee shoos me away. Well, get busy, she says. I can take on dishes tonight. Feed Red while you're at it. Chapter 24, Rufus. What a day. I flap around my nest, landing on each perch, letting the place know I'm an owl who flew through the woods and didn't die. I flew past a squirrel's nest, didn't even flinch. Of course, the squirrel didn't come out of the nest, but the important thing to note is that the not flinching. I even heard a crow somewhere off to the south and didn't fall out of the air with fright. The brown frizz was very sneaky to try out this new hunting technique, just throwing me into the woods and then hiding in the leaves. Like I couldn't hear her snuffling, all letting alone the pounding of her heart, but I got the message. She was testing me and just waiting until tomorrow when I hawk up my pellet. She'll see the 2 voles I caught all by myself. Ha! The brown frizz appears outside my nest as if called. Brown Frizz, I screeched. Did you see me? I know you were hiding, but please, there is no hiding from the great horned owl. So you definitely should have looked up at me because I flew, weaving through the branches and perching and diving, and I caught 2 voles all by myself. No help needed. The brown frizz does not seem to be catching on with the good feelings in my hoots. She slumps against the wall of my nest and slides down like a slug to the dirt. She starts grumbling in furless creature ease. I land on my moot rock, which is the closest perch to her head. Brown Frizz, there's no reason to be sulking like a frog in a drought. Focus on the exceptional, exhilarating event of the day. I flew! The brown frizz merely continues her grumbling. She sticks a wing toe in through the web and I nibble it, trying to get her to scrunch up her beakless maw, which she does, and there's the slightest hint of good feelings. That's a good furless creature, I chirp. She cracks open the web on my nest and crawls inside. I don't mind her coming in, especially on a day like today. She curls up against the wall and continues grumbling. I flap over and perch on her knee. Brown Frizz, you are acting like a fly in a web. There's no sense in this moping. You're not giving off nearly the quantity of good feelings I would have expected after such a successful test. She runs her wing toe over my breastbone, and I fluff my feathers and chirrup at her. I lean in and give her a good nip on the head fur. She chuckles and gives me a nice rub between the ear tufts, which feels quite lovely. I nip at her wing toes when she looks like she's thinking of stopping such nice rubbings. We stay there for quite some time, her giving me some excellent rubbings and me giving her some excellent instruction with my beak and talons as to where to rub. But then her beakless maw stretches wide and she sucks in a great gulp of air, and I can see she's half asleep already. You should head back to your nest, I hoot to her. She hoots back, terribly. She's forgotten everything I've taught her. Rest up, I hoot to her as she crosses the perch meadow. There will be more excellent flying tomorrow. Just hooting about it again brings back the buzz of excitement to my gizzard. I fly up to my sleeping perch and give myself a bit of a groom. My feathers are more ruffled than normal. What with all that flying out in the wild like a real owl? I can't keep from hooting softly about it. What a day! What a day! You're a half dud of a hatchling, Red squawks. She's giving me the hawkeye from her perch. Shut your beak, I hoot. I am an owl who can hunt in the woods. So what are you doing back here? I'm on the brink of becoming completely fluffed. I live here. No, she screeches, flapping and footing her perch. You live out there. You are a wild bird. That's it, fluffed I am, obviously. So I ask again, what are you doing back in here? My feathers are all out of sorts. I'm practically buzzing with all the hoots I'm holding in. As I just chirped, I say, beak clamped shut to keep from screeching uncontrollably, I live here. You are most definitely a half-dud. Red flaps out of the opening and into another part of her nest. That's it. You beak it your butt, bird. I am absolutely sick of you calling me hatchling or half-dud or anything. I am a great horned owl, and if anything, you should call me Mr. Owl, sir. Please don't eat me. Red flies back onto the perch near the opening. Oh, should I? Come and get me, hatchling. I launch at the opening in the wall, hitting the long, straight branches that cover it, and screeching and flapping and putting on quite a terrifying show. I swoop back to my perch. Red is no longer in the opening. That should shut her beak. She swoops back to where she'd been, completely unscathed, not a feather out of place. Huh, she tweets. Not a very successful attack. Every feather on my body fluffs out. If those branches weren't there, I snap. Exactly, she screeches. That's the entire point. Those branches aren't there out in the wild. There are no webs of branches. There's just you and your talons and your wings and the world. And you come back here? You chose to close yourself inside this nest. Now I'm getting my foot around her point, which forces me to listen to the tiny hoots inside, the ones that told me to come back to this place, the ones that whispered how the woods are full of dangers. The woods are hungry for young owls with no real hunting skills. The woods are cold and unforgiving and snap down like a claw when an owl least expects it. How much better to live in a safe, warm nest with nice, furless creatures who give good rubbings and feed me all the mice I can swallow. And yet this nest is also a trap. This web is not one I can open with my own talons. Why haven't you left? I hoot to Red after a while. Red turns away from me, runs her beak over a feather. I can't leave, she chirps. I've never lived in the wild. I was hatched in a nest like this one and taken from my mother as a chick. The only mother I've ever known is the one you call Graytail. She turns back to me. I tried once. I flew far on a hunt, soaring beyond her whistle. Spent a night out in the wild. It rained and I got soaked on a branch. I flew under the eaves of a human nest and was attacked by a cat. It tore my wing feathers, taking a few primaries in its claws. I scrambled into the sky, flapping any which way to escape the pain. Then I was lost and scared and cold and helpless, but my partner, Graytail, found me, crouched in the thicket of evergreens. She brought me back here. I've never tried to fly free again. But you, she screeches, you've lived out there. Your parents showed you how to live in the wild. It may be easier to live in this nest, but it's not the real life of a bird. I failed because I never had a chance, but you're choosing to fail. Don't choose to be a dud like me. She flaps up to her sleeping perch. I tuck a foot under my breast feathers and hunker down to think. Is living with the brown frizz choosing to fail? Is this life really a failure? And if I leave, will the brown frizz be all right? Of course the brown frizz will be fine. Furless creatures are not dependent on birds. Furless creatures help hurt birds. Hurt birds hurt animals of all kinds. Help them and then set them free. Great beak, was that what had the brown frizz all fluffed tonight? That I didn't fly away? Was today not a test but the end of everything? Was I supposed to fly off? Wait, does that mean the furless creatures think I'm healed? I stretch my wings. There's no pain, no tightness. I am healed, and I can hunt. I caught 2 voles all on my own out in the wild. I'm here because I'm afraid, but I have nothing to fear. I am a great horned owl, master of the night forest. Don't worry, Brown Frizz. I understand now. I'm sorry I misunderstood your grumbles, but you furless creatures are so confusing, what with all the very appealing nuzzling. I'm ready, Brown Frizz. A coyote howls, and its warning carries through the trees. Danger, it says. I scrunch down inside my feathers. Perhaps I'm not yet quite completely and absolutely ready. Maybe tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. Or the next day.